So if you thought this protection is at risk, Piers, question for you and your viewers. What would you do if you were the leader of the Democratic Party, knowing everything could potentially be exposed by the guy that has the following that wants that to happen? What would you do to prevent it from being in the office? And by the way, do you think you would stop after what just happened this past Saturday? I'm not going to be in a naive community and say, no, that's it, they're going to let him go in there. I think they're going to do whatever they can the next 112 days or whatever days are left to make sure he doesn't get in there.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all is good wherever you are. In this video, we're going to take a look at the most recent episode of the Piers Morgan Show. Just a clip where he interviewed Patrick Bet-David. If you do want to watch the full-length episode, I will link it in the description down below. They talked about the assassination attempt on Trump, some conspiracies, and will Biden be replaced going forward? Let's get into it.
It really is an inexplicable chain of events that Donald Trump, who is, one of the most threatened people in American public life, who's been president and is likely to be again, is at a public presidential rally months before an election, and any of that chain of events is able to happen.
Piers, we were a half an inch away from civil war. We were a head not turning this way from a civil war. We've all seen the videos. And by the way, there is nothing wrong with questioning anything. One of the videos we showed is a reporter going around in California asking people, what do you think about the assassination attempt on the president? And everybody this person asked in California, everybody said, oh, it was a setup.
Well, we actually, I'll tell you what, Patrick, let me stop you because we actually have that. Let me play that so that viewers know what you're talking about.
Sure, go for it.
Oh, it's a false flag.
False flag?
Yeah, false flag.
Somebody died and 2 people injured. What do you think about that?
False flag.
False flag.
I thought it was magnificently staged. It was professionally done.
Wait. Staged by who?
Oh, by Mr. Trump, of course.
I think this whole thing is staged.
No.
Please don't. We're so anti-Trump. I don't even want to.
Was it a bad thing, though? Was it a bad thing? Would you condemn it?
Oh, that he got shot at? Of course. Was it staged? Probably.
One person died in the crowd, 2 critically injured. What happened there?
Small price. It wouldn't matter to Trump. Do you think he cares if people die for him to be elected? Put a little scratch on his ear, threw a little blood on his face.
Now, so you think that they planned from 130 yards away to shoot off the corner of his ear?
And they never shot off the corner of his ear. That was all done by the people hanging around him.
What about the people that died what about the father that died in the stand as well as the others that were critically injured?
I don't know. I can't tell.
What would you say our reasoning is for saying that, or we have no reasoning?
Just a feeling. Just a feeling.
If Trump is involved, it's a fraud.
I mean, it's staggering to me to hear that. And yet I had first-hand experience in the UK from various people that I encountered within 24 hours of what happened, immediately saying to me, because they recognized me and knew I'd been covering this, they said, this thing's staged, right? This was all set up. And I was like, what are you talking about? Of course it wasn't set up, but trying to make them understand it was real was pretty much impossible.
But here's what I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with them saying that. I'm okay with that, and put that as a possibility that it was staged. Now, the possibility of being staged may be 0.1%, but we ought to put it out there as maybe this is possibility. Fine, give your argument. But at the same time, I have a lot of questions just like you do. The story that came out with the second shooter, the story that came out with the FBI power washing all the stuff on the top of the building after the shooter was gone, and maybe they don't have any residual effects of the shots fired. Maybe there's no residual effects. That's not a hard thing for us to find. They found the phone. You mean to tell me you didn't find anything in the phone on what was being said? We can't expect why the Secret Service, when I go online and I Google President Joe Biden's Secret Service team and go to images, try to find one female, that's one of his, you will not be able to find it. I went online and looked at all his team. Everybody is a white male. I thought President Biden was about DEI and, underrepresented. How come he doesn't have a single person that's transgender or lesbian, gay? How come he doesn't have somebody from that community representing him? And forget about that. Why is it that every one of his Secret Service members are white male, let alone for Trump, when they're being pushed into it, 3, 4, 5 of them were women. This is an area where DEI is being exposed in
And
ways
also,
where we just got a story yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't have a problem with women in the Secret Service. They just have to be as good as the men, right? And they have to be up to the job. What was pretty horrifying was the agent that you saw, who's unfortunately for her gone viral, who can't even put a gun in a holster in that environment. And you're like, how on earth have you got into the Secret Service? This is like supposed to be the absolute elite of the elite of protection people in the world. And she can't put a gun in a holster twice as she's trying to protect a president who's just been shot.
But think about it from this way. Many, many years ago, when I'm running an office and I had 100 agents that are selling insurance, and one of my agents would come in and say, I have a family member that wants me, got a very complicated financial situation. Their net worth is 10 million. Can you have somebody come and sit down with them? I would choose who I would send to go meet with the family that is the biggest expert in our office that knows how to handle a situation like that, right? I choose how to match up the right agent advisor with the right appointment. The director of Secret Service has the ability to match up the best agents who are the most experienced ones against the person that's attracting the biggest audience, which is President Trump. You ought to send the right people to protect. Why did you not? By the way, this is the same person that in 2022, when asked about the text exchange between the Bidens during J6, all of a sudden she's like, oh, the text exchange disappeared. We lost it. But look, we're not trying to do anything, that's negative, or we're not trying to hide anything from the public. So I have a very hard time. And every one of these questions need to be asked because it's a little bit disturbing when all these stories are coming up. By the way, specifically when? So let's actually think like the devil's advocate. Let's actually think if they were trying to do something, something negative or something that, manipulative to kind of hurt the president. So the judge comes out and says, we're going to pick what's going to happen to the president a few days before RNC, July 11th. Okay, no problem. They changed the dates. No problem. The assassination attempt is when? When is the RNC? What did they want to do? Did they want there to be shambles before the RNC? Did they want right now at the RNC where the energy is high, the confidence is high with who they have chosen as their nominee, which is Trump, and you see a unification coming up. Nikki Haley got up there. DeSantis got up there. Vivek got up there. Elon Musk just said he's going to get $45 million a month to a super PAC before now and the end of the year. Bunch of billionaires are coming out there. Conversations with a Jamie Dimon, conversations with an RFK, the video that was leaked. You know how bad this is for the DNC? If the same person, Vivek, the same folks that are saying this was staged, we ought to also ask, was this intentional to do it right before the RNC? That question should also be on the table.
I just think all questions are perfectly legitimate.
Listen, I'm not somebody who dwells in or jumps to conspiracy theories right away, but you have to agree that there's many things afoot with this Trump assassination attempt. The fact that at the same time when he was president and running against Biden in that same town, the Secret Service and the military with him was full to the tits. And this time, 3 dudes and a couple of Secret Service ladies that didn't seem to know what they were doing were there with him. And it's crazy to me. I remember hearing the speech from the FBI director saying that they were going to make an effort to hire more women or make it 50% women. I don't remember what it was. Now, don't get me wrong. If all the tests are equal for the men and women, the physical tests, the mental acuity test, the weapons tests, and the women pass and beat the men, by all means have them in there. I have no issues with women being in the Secret Service or being in the military. All I'm saying is if you're making quotas to not let people that earned it based off merit just to get your quota of women so that women could be represented at 50% in the FBI, you're putting people's life at risk for this, for DEI. And this is what happens with the airlines too. People's lives are at risk because of DEI. Now, when she was asked about not having a sniper on that one roof, and she said the roof was pretty slanted. When I was 16 years old, 15 years old, my first job was I used to do roofing. I used to walk the shingles up the ladder. This is before they used lifts. And I was able, without any equipment whatsoever, to stand on a slanted roof and be just fine. So do you think that the most powerful, most advanced military power in the world, the best Secret Service in the world, would not have a few people that could be like, yeah, I'm good. Put me on the slanted roof, dog. I got this. I don't want to go into all of them, but you guys know there's a ton of these things. The ladder, the fact that people were screaming out there, hey, there's a guy on the roof, there's a guy on the roof, there's a guy on the roof, and the cops were like doing nothing. The whole thing stinks. Now, the video that they showed of James Klug going around interviewing people, you all should go and watch that video. It's like he's in an alternate universe talking to a bunch of NPCs that never left their bubble. It was unbelievable. Let's get back to the video.
And we know so little answers. There's no motive has been established, no real information about this shooter or why a 20-year-old kid would want to kill Donald Trump. We just don't know anything about it. And very little, very oddly, very little is emerging about him or motivation or anything. What happens here? I mean, there are lots of consequences. Let's start, first of all, the Secret Service. I don't understand how the Secretary Cheatle, the one in charge of the Secret Service, has not yet been fired. The director, I'm sorry, not Secretary. The director of the Secret Service, Cheatle. How has she not been fired yet?
How is she not being fired? Because Mayorkas said, we trust her, we have her back 100% with what she's doing. And she said, no, I'm still going to be doing the job. And by the way, when they asked the director of Secret Service for specifically the RNC, I don't know exactly her name, but she was one of the ones that was for Secret Service, responsible for the RNC. She was asked, are you guys going to be making any adjustments in your approach at the RNC? No, we're taking the same exact approach. What do you mean you're taking the same exact approach? So let me get this straight. In any sporting event, you're a fan of Ronaldo, you're a fan of Man U, you're a fan of soccer, you're a fan of rugby, certain sports we watch. What do players say after a loss? They say we have to make certain adjustments. You mean to tell me if in sports we make adjustments, if in business we make adjustments, if a negotiation doesn't go right, we make adjustments, if in parenting we make adjustments, if in our marriage we make adjustments, in our health we make adjustments, but not when it comes down to an assassination attempt on the president, that totally makes sense because what's the big deal, right? It's just an assassination attempt. We don't need to make any adjustments. We know what we're doing. And then 3, 4, 5 days later, you want to deflect and confuse the American people and say, oh, it's Iran. Iran was really behind this and trying to get everybody to look this way instead of why don't we investigate what the Secret Service got wrong? You know, there was something I was said the other day that I really liked, and I would love to quote who said this. The question was the following: how come the president doesn't fire anybody? Everybody bitched and moaned about the fact that Trump fired a lot of people. How come President Biden doesn't fire anyone?
I think it was Elon Musk. I think Elon Musk said it, actually.
I think Elon Musk said the fact that how come President Biden doesn't fire anybody? It's a very valid question. In corporate environment, she would be fired like this,
also,
but unfortunately,
as the head
this
of
is
the
politics.
Secret Service, you have one job: preserving the life of the president. That is your job. You're in charge of a very large team. I mean, I once interviewed, and it was an incredibly powerful interview, Clint Hill, who was a member of the Secret Service detail on the day Kennedy got shot and killed. And he was Jackie Kennedy's personal bodyguard. He's the one you see jumping on the back of the car after the first shot goes off. And then he slightly stumbles. And he was very tearful with me because every day he thinks about, had he not stumbled, could he have taken the second bullet and saved JFK's life? So it was a very powerful interview. I think there were less than 10 people on that detail in Dallas that day. That was how big the Secret Service protection squad was for the president. There's now over 300. I've been around Donald Trump when he's landed at Stansted Airport in the UK. It's unbelievable what goes on. And when he takes off, the whole backup security and so on. I've been at Mar-a-Lago when it's been swarmed with Secret Service and so on. What I found extraordinary about what happened at the shooting was, A, there didn't seem to be many Secret Service agents there, given where we are in this election cycle and how polarizing Trump is. B, a lot of them seemed to be female, and yet when he appeared at the RNC, he was surrounded by a lot of very large men and no women in sight at all. Who made that decision? Why did they make that decision? Are they acknowledging?
Guys, I just want to jump in here really quickly. If you enjoy these videos, hopefully this will be the day that I can earn your subscription. And if not, a thumbs up on the video really goes a long way to help your boy out. Let's get back to the video.
That the female agents who were there that day were part of the problem, and if so, why were they put there in the first place, and so on and so on. These are all incredibly serious questions. I agree with you. If that bullet had been literally half an inch one way nearer Trump's head, he'd be dead. And if Donald Trump had been killed, all hell would have broken loose in America. I genuinely believe that. It would have been a tinderbox. And I think that we've very fortunately got to a place where he somehow miraculously survived. But heads should roll, and the first head should be the director of Secret Service. Let me move, Patrick, to another consequence of this, which is soaring support for Trump, both in the polls, but also just anecdotally. Just so many people I know saying, you know what, given the state of Biden before this anyway, and his refusal to pull out of the race despite clearly being unfit for the office now, Trump's act of defiance in standing up and putting his arm up to the air and saying, fight, 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 has really resonated with Americans who saw in a moment of unbelievable horror a guy who showed real leadership, real defiance, a real strength of character, and real personal courage. That, to me, I've said this since it happened, in my estimation, has now propelled him back to the White House. I see no way, if he stays alive, and God forbid anyone else tries to copycat this, but if Trump is there on election day, he wins, doesn't he?
I think if Joe Biden somehow, some way was able to get the Supreme Court to amend the Constitution and allow a president to get a third term, neither a Bill Clinton or a Barack Obama in their prime could beat a Trump today.
Yeah.
Neither one of them. Neither a Barack Obama or Bill Clinton. However, that's assuming everything's going to be fair play moving forward. That's assuming it's going to be fair play, which we know it's not going to be fair play.
What can they do, Patrick?
This is
let's think about this logically, right? Trump was, completely buried politically 18 months ago. And then the left decided to weaponize the justice system against him in the most ridiculously over-the-top manner. And the first case they used is the Stormy Daniels payment case, which was such a pathetic, low-grade thing to drag a former president through a criminal court over. The conviction got him another $150 million in 10 days in fundraising, and absolutely nobody took it seriously whatsoever. And it had no damage to his reputation or his popularity whatsoever. So that all backfired. They've tried to take him off ballots in various states. That hasn't worked. We've had someone try to shoot him now. That hasn't worked either, thank God. But they've literally chucked everything that they can think of, both the Democrats, the liberals, lunatics. I mean, you put it all together, this has been one of the most concerted attempts to thwart somebody becoming president again I've ever seen anywhere in the world. And yet there he is, standing now as the clear favourite to go and win. I don't think there's anything the Democrats can now throw at him that will touch the sides. I really don't.
See, it's good to say that, and it's coming from a great place of optimism. But then there are people that get paid to think about what the enemy would do to divide and conquer and play their own games. Look, the New England Patriots one year almost went undefeated. They were 16-0, but they lost to the Giants. So you can't sit there and assume that all these things are going to be perfect and we're going to win. Nobody's going to get in our way. That's not how this thing works. I think for me, you have to think, again, what is at stake for the left? What is at stake for the left if Trump gets in on a second term? Let's kind of talk about this. Elon Musk buys Twitter, turns it into X. We all saw Barry Weiss and Matt Taibbi with Twitter files. What did we learn about the involvement of the New York Post tweet a couple days before the election? What did we learn about Biden's camp communicating with Twitter at the time saying you can't allow this to happen? What did we learn about it? They were involved. So what if Trump gets in and all of a sudden brings in individuals to investigate FBI files? What about if there's CIA files? What about if there's DOJ files? What about if there's Merrick Garland files? What if there's all these files that we see with email that you can't just delete these emails because you're dealing with the government? What if we get access to that information? What would we really learn about this? Could this be one of those situations where, if you remember back in the days, where J. Edgar Hoover was frightened after going after the mob because they had certain intel on him as being a cross-dresser, and at the time that was frowned upon. So it's like the mafia doesn't exist, the mafia doesn't exist, the mafia doesn't exist. Then all of a sudden, Rudy Giuliani goes and finds a professor, I think at Rutgers University, that says if you are going to take the mob down, you have to do with the RICO law. And then he comes in, and next thing you know, we see 240-something mob arrested going in cop cars. Like, what just happened right now with this whole situation? What if that takes place? What if that's what they fear? What if they're worried all this stuff's going to leak? What if they're worried that RFK is going to join Trump's camp and he's going to go after Fauci, NIH, CDC, WHO? What if? These are things you have to consider. So if you thought this protection is at risk, Piers, question for you and your viewers. What would you do if you were the leader of the Democratic Party, knowing everything could potentially be exposed by the guy that has the following that wants that to happen? What would you do to prevent it from being in the office? And by the way, do you think you would stop after what just happened this past Saturday? I'm not going to be in a naive community and say, no, that's it, they're going to let him go in there. I think they're going to do whatever they can the next 112 days or whatever days are left to make sure he doesn't get in there.
I mean, I think the really big question for the Democrats is the thing that's been off the table now for the last few days since the assassination attempt is whether Biden should stay as the Democrat nominee. Most Democrats seem completely torn. The majority I've seen talking out about this seem to think he absolutely can't. I mean, it's sort of ridiculous to think he could do 4 more years in office when he can barely seem to remember what day it is. If they were able to come to their senses, and they would have to bring Biden to his senses, which he may not have the faculty to do. But if they did and they were to replace him, as things stand, the most likely replacement is Kamala Harris, who I think could arguably be even less popular than Joe Biden. She's been a pretty useless vice president. There are others who I think would do a better job, but can they get to the place of nomination, or is this really? Are we seeing the Democrats now in complete converse difference to the Republicans, who've never seemed more united? I mean, this RNC convention this week has been one of unbelievable unity, and Trump at the center of it. Are the Democrats now completely so fragmented that really whatever they do, they're screwed?
Yeah, listen, I mean, think about your Newsom, and you get a phone call. Hey, Newsom, we want to find a way to make you be the nominee. Are you up for it? After the assassination attempt. I'm not feeling well.
I agree.
I think I need to take a mental day off. I think I need to take a break. I think I got COVID. I think I'm sick. You're going to say whatever you can to not go up against Trump today because you're going to postpone till 2028. Yeah. Hey, Michelle Obama, we're thinking about you. Yeah, I'm good being a celebrity right now, hanging out with Jay-Z and Oprah. I don't want to be in there. Hey, Whitmer, maybe Whitmer will do it. Hey, Kamala, maybe Kamala will do it. But that is not their problem. Their problem right now isn't whether they're going to be able to bring in a nominee to beat them. There is this many people that can do it today. This many people. By the way, if you watch the scene, everybody knows what it is to be a parent. And everybody knows what it is to be a son and a daughter. Most people do. If you're the son and a daughter and you have a loving relationship with your father, somebody you admire, all people need to do is to go see when President Trump walked into the RNC with the badge, with the little Band-Aid on his ear, and you can tell it wasn't the typical Trump. It wasn't the Trump that comes in with the head held high and look who I am. It was a very different Trump. This is not the same human being anymore. Listen, there was a book written many years ago, Piers, by a guy named David and Goliath, and he talks about what happens to human beings when they have a close call with death. You're no longer the same person anymore. You're just not. You're a completely different human being. And then when he walks up and he's shaking hands with Tucker, then he shakes hands with Byron Donalds, then he shakes his son's hand with his left hand, and you see Junior makes eye contact with his dad. Replay that. Every son, every father, every parent will see the pain of that son looking at his hero saying, I almost lost my dad. Everybody relates to that. Now, maybe the people on the left that are like, man, this is ridiculous. This is heartbreaking. I can't even, stomach this, watching this. I feel the pain, but I can't say that publicly because there's no way I'm going to be supportive of this. But the average libertarian, independent, a person in the middle is going to sit there and say, you know what? I'm in with this guy. So this is a very problematic season for the left. And the only way they can do it is not with a candidate. It's with a negative, deceptive strategy to get him out. And I'm not going to put anything else out there, but you cannot sit there and not think on the paranoid side that what they're capable of doing. It's
an extraordinary state of affairs. Riveting, fascinating, shocking, concerning, all of those things. It'd be really interesting to see how this all plays out. Patrick, it's great to have you back on Uncensored. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think Biden's going to be the nominee at this point. I don't think there's any chance of him being replaced. I was watching Patrick Bet-David's show the other day, and he was talking about it. I just don't think that anybody beats Trump. He said that Obama and Clinton in his prime, he doesn't see them beating Trump right now, the way how powerful Trump is, how popular he is. That's why I don't think Biden gets replaced. And Piers Morgan says, if they're smart, they'll just leave it the way it is, to be honest. If I'm in the Democratic Party, I'm thinking, let's not throw somebody who would be better than Biden out there to the wolves just to be chewed up by the Trump machine right now. You leave Biden in there, you've lost already. It doesn't matter who you put in. Even if Michelle Obama is really a thing, Big Mike Obama, if they really want to put her in there, she's not going to win. So why waste it? Why waste somebody that you think is a top-tier Democratic woke candidate just to lose? You leave Biden in there, and you're done with it. Kamala Harris, I guess you could put her in there, but she's less likable than Biden. At this point, I think you just write it out. But I don't know. You guys let me know what you think down in the comments section below. I often learn a lot from you guys. I don't answer all the comments because at this point the channel's growing all the time. There's too many. But I do read them all, and often you guys have a different take or a different opinion than I do, and I learn from you guys, and you sway me another way. Comment down below. Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace out, everybody.